My next guest does business around the world and helps clients navigate these kind of pitfalls. So I want to bring in StoneX Chief Market Strategist Kathryn Rooney Vera. KRV, Russia wasn't having a good week. You had Germany saying, hey, we're going to block LNG supplies. We saw their reserves collapse. And so now this, what do you make of it? And how should investors take this news?
Well, I think it's signaling more than anything, Charles, because we do have restrictions already in place with regard to Russia. So I think that this is Putin probably setting himself up to negotiate as he faces a more difficult counterweight to him starting in January of next year. So I don't think it's a very near-term or has any near-term impact, but I do think it is a negotiating tactic. And what he's doing with Germany, opening up and renegotiating at the energy relationship there, I think is also pretty telling to that end.
So the day after the election, you published your note and, you talked about, of course, this sweep and how it can amplify risk asset performance. And boy, has it. Are you surprised by the degree of enthusiasm that we've seen in the stock market so far, even before, let's just say before yesterday afternoon and today?
A Republican sweep, in my view, and this was before the election, I thought was going to take equity markets higher. It certainly did. And I think that's intuitive. It's logical, because to get tax cuts passed Congress, you need both the House and the Senate. And Trump has both. So that's probably going to happen. We're going to get corporate tax cuts moved from 21 to 15, as well as an extension or made permanent for individual taxes. That's all well and good, and that's great for the markets and for corporate profits. It puts money back in the pockets of the corporations and passed on to shareholders. My biggest concern is the success or lack thereof for the offsetting spending cuts. That's actually going to be the most essential part as to whether or not this very pro-growth exercise and policy mix will be successful. Spending has to go down if you're going to cut taxes and juice an economy that's already growing above potential.
Critics are saying that the tariffs, if you crunch the numbers on the tariffs, it wouldn't be enough to offset revenue that potentially could have come from tax cuts, right, when those tax cuts are made. Although we heard that, too, for the current tax regime, that we've actually seen revenues increase every single year to the federal government. So, what do you make of the role of tariffs and how they may impact all of this stuff?
Tariffs are a negotiating tool, and I think the Trump administration is going to use it as such. So it's going to get us advances on the geopolitical front. It's going to get us advances on renegotiated trade agreements. But to cover the amount of the deficit, which is massive, we have a fiscal deficit in our country of 6.5% of GDP. That's huge. And that's way above where it should be. Actually, we haven't seen that in history, Charles, outside of a war in an economy that's not in recession. So all of this is inflationary. My point here, my warning to the audience is, if we juice the economy with these, great tax cuts, deregulation, all of that is fantastic, as well as tariffs used as a negotiating tactic, then we're going to get a reacceleration in inflation. If we get a reacceleration in inflation, the Fed is not going to be cutting. Right. The Fed could potentially be hiking in 2025.
And before I let you go, I want to share some of your strategic recommendations. Overweight equities, reduce long duration bond exposure. Quickly tell us about alternative assets. Which ones do you like here?
My favorite is gold. And, gold, I think now we've seen a drop off there. I would be a buyer of gold. I think it's a very good place to be, as well as real estate, industrial real estate especially. I think that's a second derivative to the AI trade. And if we do get tech correcting because the market reassesses the Fed's ability to cut rates, then I would be buying there too. Generally, I'm bullish. I think that the current mix of policy is favorable to corporate profits, which are already at record highs. So we need to be careful on the spending front. We need to be careful on the deficit front, because that could change the trajectory of market sentiment.
KRV, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.